Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe it's been a long day, or maybe you're the kind of person who likes to fall asleep thinking about deep time and ancient creatures instead of counting sheep. Either way, tonight's journey is for you. You don't need to do anything now but rest. Let your breath slow, your thoughts soften, and your body grow heavy, as if it's been part of the earth forever. Because tonight, we're going to wander quietly through the story of life. Not in a straight line, but as a branching, tangled tree. A story told not in words, but in fossils and feathers and leftover genes hidden in your cells. Evolution is everywhere, even in you. We'll go slowly, peacefully, one strange fact at a time. And just before we begin, if these quiet explorations help you unwind or give you a peaceful way to end your day, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too. Now, let's begin. Human embryos briefly have tails. During the early weeks of human development, a tiny tail extends from the base of the embryo's spine, a clear evolutionary echo of our ancestors. This tail is made of vertebrae and even includes muscles and nerves. It begins forming around day 28 of development and reaches its peak length a week or so later. Then, in most cases, it's reabsorbed by the body, becoming the tailbone or coccyx. Occasionally, babies are born with small tails still intact, a rare but fascinating glimpse into our evolutionary past. It is a quiet reminder that we once shared a body plan with creatures who used that tail for balance, climbing, or swimming. There are more bacterial genes in your body than human ones. Your body contains about 20,000 human genes, but the bacteria that live in and on you carry millions more. These microbes aren't just passengers. They help digest your food, shape your immune system, and even influence your mood and behavior. Most live in your gut, forming what scientists call the microbiome, an ecosystem that co-evolved with humans over millions of years. Some of these bacteria are passed down through generations, inherited just as surely as your DNA. Others are picked up from food, soil, and other people. You are not just a single organism. You're a walking, thinking community, part human, part microbial, and entirely shaped by evolutionary history. Eyeless cavefish still grow eye sockets and then absorb them. In the dark, silent waters of underground caves, some species of fish have lost their eyes entirely. But here's the strange part. Their embryos still begin to develop them. Tiny eye structures form, just like in their sighted relatives. But then the growth stops. The cells begin to break down, and the tissue is absorbed back into the body. This phenomenon, called regressive evolution, reveals how evolution removes what is no longer useful. It's often more efficient to shut something down than to rewire it from scratch. Even in blindness, these cave fish carry the quiet blueprint of sight, an echo of light that once guided their ancestors. Whale pelvic bones are still there. Whales still carry faint traces of the legs they left behind. Deep within the soft tissue near their hips lie tiny pelvic bones, no longer connected to limbs, but still present. These structures once supported walking legs in their land-dwelling ancestors. Over millions of years, as their descendants adapted to aquatic life, the bones shrank and lost their original function. Yet evolution rarely deletes a structure entirely. Instead, it repurposes, modifies, or simply lets it linger. The vestigial pelvis in whales is a quiet anatomical fossil, a remnant of a body that once walked, now gliding silently through the sea. The giraffe's neck has only 7 vertebrae. The giraffe's neck, though astonishingly long, is built from the same number of vertebrae found in nearly all mammals, just 7. Each vertebra has simply stretched and expanded over time, forming the famous tower that allows giraffes to browse treetops or spar with their necks during ritual combat. This constraint, the 7-bone blueprint, shows how evolution tends to modify existing structures rather than invent new ones from scratch. A longer neck wasn't created by adding new bones, but by elongating what was already there. Even the most dramatic changes often come from small tweaks to familiar blueprints. Dolphins and bats both independently evolved echolocation. Echolocation, the ability to see with sound, evolved independently in both dolphins and bats, two animals separated by millions of years and utterly different environments. Dolphins use sonar to navigate the murky ocean. Bats use high-pitched squeaks to hunt insects in the dark. Despite these differences, both lineages evolved similar genetic changes to their hearing and sound-producing machinery. This is a striking case of convergent evolution, when similar challenges lead unrelated species down the same evolutionary path. Sound became a way to pierce the darkness, two solutions crafted twice in total isolation. Flight evolved more than once. The skies are full of creatures with wings, but they didn't all get them the same way. Birds, bats, and insects all evolved flight independently. Even pterosaurs, the extinct flying reptiles, had a different wing structure from modern birds. In each case, evolution took what was available, an arm, a membrane, a set of scales, and reshaped it into something capable of lifting an animal into the air. These multiple inventions of flight are a reminder that evolution isn't a straight line. It's a process of improvisation, trial and error, and opportunity. And sometimes it takes to the skies in four entirely different ways. Human and banana DNA are shockingly similar. It might be hard to believe, but humans and bananas share around 60% of their DNA. That S because much of the genetic code across all life on Earth is made from the same ancient ingredients. Genes for basic cellular processes, like copying DNA, breaking down sugars, or making proteins, are so fundamental that they've been passed down across billions of years. The differences lie in how those genes are arranged, expressed, and adapted. You are obviously not a banana, but on a molecular level, you're both running variations of the same deeply ancient code. Some lizards don't need males to reproduce. In certain species of lizards, females have evolved the ability to reproduce entirely without males. This process, called parthenogenesis, allows a single female to create offspring that are genetic clones of herself. It's rare among vertebrates, but in some desert-dwelling lizards, it has become the norm. While this method can limit genetic diversity, it also has advantages. A lone individual can found a new population, no mate required. It's a striking example of how evolution can shape reproduction in ways that break the usual rules, especially in harsh or isolated environments where opportunities for mating are few and far between. All life on Earth shares a common ancestor. Every plant, every animal, every fungus and microbe that has ever lived on this planet, from whales to willow trees to the bacteria in your gut, is part of the same unbroken tree of life. If you trace the branches far enough back in time, past mass extinctions and shifting continents, you'd arrive at a single ancient cell. It lived over 3.5 billion years ago, in a world without oxygen, long before the first fish or fern. Its genetic material survives in every living creature today. You are not just connected to your parents and grandparents, but to mushrooms, coral reefs, and even pond scum, all cousins in a vast and ancient family. Whales evolved from four-legged land mammals. Long before they swam the oceans, the ancestors of modern whales walked on land. They had hooves, long snouts, and limbs built for wading through shallow rivers. Over tens of millions of years, their descendants gradually became more aquatic. Their legs shortened, their tails broadened, and their nostrils migrated toward the top of their heads. Fossils like Pachysodus and Ambulocetus capture this transition beautifully. Animals with both land-going limbs and ear bones suited for underwater hearing. Today's whales still carry the hidden legacy of that transformation, with tiny vestigial hip bones buried deep in their flesh. What began as a four-legged forager became the largest animal the world has ever seen. Birds are the living descendants of dinosaurs. The next time you see a sparrow or a crow, try to imagine it as a tiny feathered dinosaur, because that's exactly what it is. Modern birds evolved from a branch of small, fast, feathered theropods, the same group that includes Velociraptor and Tyrannosaurus rex. These ancient creatures already had hollow bones, sharp vision, and feathers used for warmth or display. Over time, their limbs became wings and their skeletons grew lighter. But evolution didn't erase their ancestry. Birds still lay eggs. They still have claws, beaks, and even traces of dinosaur genes in their DNA. Every robin, every owl, every pigeon you pass is a dinosaur that learned to fly. Vestigial structures are evolution's footnotes. Throughout the bodies of animals, including our own, are features that no longer serve their original function. These are vestigial structures, evolutionary leftovers that were once useful, but now persist in altered or diminished form. Human goosebumps are one example. They once helped our hairy ancestors puff up their fur to stay warm or appear larger to predators. Today, they serve little purpose. The human appendix, too, is thought to be a remnant of a plant-digesting organ used by distant herbivorous ancestors. Evolution rarely erases things cleanly. It modifies, repurposes, and occasionally forgets, leaving behind quiet anatomical clues to our past. Antibiotic resistance is evolution in fast forward. When bacteria are exposed to antibiotics, most die, but sometimes a few survive, thanks to random genetic mutations. These survivors multiply rapidly, passing along their resistance. In just weeks or months, an entire population can evolve immunity to a drug that once killed it. This is evolution happening not over millions of years, but within a single hospital or farm. It's a vivid example of natural selection in action. Traits that increase survival spread through the population. Antibiotic resistance is a global health crisis, but also a powerful real-time demonstration of how relentless and adaptable evolution can be. A platypus is a genetic time capsule. With a duck-like bill, fur, webbed feet, and the ability to lay eggs, the platypus seems almost too strange to be real. But every part of its body tells a story of evolutionary history. It produces milk like a mammal, but lays eggs like a reptile. It has electroreception, detecting the electrical signals of its prey underwater, a rare trait among mammals. Its genes are equally strange. The platypus has 10 sex chromosomes, some resembling those of birds. It's not a mashup. It's a living snapshot of evolutionary branching, showing what can happen when a lineage takes its own strange path through deep time. Jaw muscles may have made room for big brains. In humans, a key gene that once built powerful jaw muscles, called MEA16, carries a mutation that renders it inactive. Our ancient primate relatives had large chewing muscles and smaller skulls. But in early humans, the loss of this gene may have reduced the mechanical pressure on the skull, allowing the brain case to expand. Whether the mutation caused bigger brains or simply allowed them, it reveals the subtle, unexpected trade-offs in evolution. Sometimes a gene breaks, and something extraordinary grows in the space it leaves behind. Mammal genes reveal our fishy origins. Your teeth carry traces of your aquatic ancestry. Hidden in the human genome are broken versions of the genes that once produced enamel across the body, not just on teeth, but on skin. In ancient fish, a hard enamel-like coating helped protect their entire exterior. Over evolutionary time, those genes were lost or repurposed as animals transitioned to land and developed internal skeletons. Today, enamel appears only on teeth, and the rest of the body is soft. But the ghost of that armor remains, coded in your DNA, like an evolutionary whisper from long before limbs ever touched dry ground. Tiktaalik was the fish that walked. Discovered in 2004, Tiktaalik is a 375-million-year-old fossil that bridges the gap between fish and four-legged land animals. It had gills and fins, but also lungs and wrist-like bones, structures capable of supporting its body in shallow water or on muddy flats. With its flat head and flexible neck, it resembled a cross between a fish and a salamander. Tiktaalik is not our direct ancestor, but it is part of the transitional puzzle that explains how life moved from water to land. Evolution doesn't leap. It builds one tiny change at a time until fins become feet and rivers give rise to forests. Tasmanian wolves were dogs by another name. The extinct Tasmanian wolf, or thylacine, looked remarkably like a dog, pointed ears, striped back, and all, but it wasn't even a placental mammal. It was a marsupial, more closely related to kangaroos than to wolves. On the isolated continent of Australia, it evolved a nearly identical skull shape, gait, and hunting behavior to true wolves through a process called convergent evolution. Despite being separated by over 100 million years of evolution, the needs of a meat-eating predator sculpted both animals into the same form. Evolution often repeats itself, not exactly, but close enough to be eerie. Penguins gave up flight to master the ocean. Penguins didn't forget how to fly. They traded it away. Over millions of years, their wings shrank and stiffened, becoming perfect flippers for diving. Their bones became heavier, no longer hollow like those of flying birds. Their feathers compacted into dense, waterproof layers. These changes gave them extraordinary agility underwater, where they fly through the sea with the grace of torpedoes. This shift came at a cost. They could no longer take to the skies. But evolution doesn't aim for perfection, only sufficiency. In the frigid waters of the Southern Ocean, penguins are as finely tuned as any eagle in flight. Horses used to have toes. Modern horses stand on a single toe. Their powerful hooves are enlarged middle toes, evolved for speed and endurance on open plains. But if you go back over 50 million years, early horses like Eohippus had 4 toes on their front feet and 3 on their hind feet. These small forest-dwelling creatures padded through dense undergrowth on soft, multi-toed feet. As grasslands spread and predators became faster, natural selection favored longer limbs and simpler, more efficient feet. Side toes shrank and vanished. What remains today is a streamlined limb, descended from a once sprawling foot, an elegant compromise between ancestry and environment. Moths can jam bat radar. Some tiger moths have evolved the ability to confuse their greatest predator, the bat. Using specialized organs called tymbals, these moths emit rapid ultrasonic clicks while in flight. To human ears, it's silence. But to a hunting bat using echolocation, it's static, a sonic cloud that can blur the outlines of the moth's body or suggest a false location. This acoustic defense is a rare example of biological countermeasures, like sonar jamming in military technology. It's an evolutionary arms race played out in darkness. Every refinement in bat sonar is met with an upgrade in moth stealth. Seahorse dads carry the babies. In most of the animal kingdom, females carry the embryos, but not in seahorses. Here, the roles are reversed. The female deposits her eggs into a pouch on the male's belly, where he fertilizes and protects them as they develop. The pouch supplies oxygen, nutrients, and even contractions during birth. This reversal of parental roles is rare among vertebrates, but in seahorses, it's the norm. Evolution doesn't follow social conventions. It responds to what works. In the tangled seagrass where seahorses live, this arrangement gives mothers more time to produce eggs, while fathers guard the next generation. Naked mole rats don't feel pain the same way. Naked mole rats live underground in dark, crowded tunnels with high levels of carbon dioxide. Over time, they evolved to handle this environment in ways that almost no other mammals can. One of the most unusual traits: they don't feel certain kinds of pain. Their nerve receptors don't respond to acid or capsaicin, a chemical that makes chili peppers burn. This insensitivity likely evolved as a side effect of adapting to their stuffy, acidic tunnels. In their strange world, pain signals would be constant and useless. So evolution turned them off. It's one of many oddities that make these wrinkled rodents evolutionary outliers. Elephants rotate their teeth forward. Unlike humans, who have one set of adult teeth that emerge from below, elephants have a conveyor belt system. Their massive molars grow deep within their jaws and slowly move forward as older teeth wear down. Over a lifetime, they cycle through 6 sets of these grinding plates. Each new molar grows larger and tougher than the one before, capable of chewing bark, roots, and fibrous vegetation. Eventually, even the final pair wears out. And in the wild, this can determine an elephant's lifespan. It's a quiet example of how evolution shapes not just bodies, but the passage of time within them. Human skin color evolved many times. Skin color in humans is one of the most visible examples of evolution in action, and it didn't happen just once. Populations living in high UV environments evolved darker skin to protect against DNA damage and preserve folate, while those in low UV zones evolved lighter skin to absorb more sunlight for vitamin D synthesis. But this happened independently in different parts of the world. For example, dark-skinned populations in Africa and southern India are genetically distinct, and the light skin of Europeans and East Asians evolved through different genetic mutations. Human skin tone is not a linear gradient, but a patchwork of local evolutionary solutions to sunlight. The pronghorn is too fast for its predators. North America's pronghorn antelope can run at speeds over 55 miles per hour, far faster than any of its living predators. But the reason lies in the past. During the Ice Age, pronghorns shared the plains with now extinct American cheetahs, fleet-footed hunters that pushed prey to evolve greater speed. When those predators vanished, the pronghorn kept its running ability. It's now a species built for a race that no longer happens. Evolution leaves traces not just of what exists, but of what's gone. A kind of ecological ghostwriting, written into bones, sinews, and astonishing bursts of speed. Your laryngeal nerve loops through your chest. In the human body, one of the nerves that controls your voice, the recurrent laryngeal nerve, takes an oddly long path. Instead of going directly from your brain to your voice box, it loops down into your chest and wraps around the aorta before returning upward. This detour is an evolutionary relic. In fish, the nerve took a short route around a nearby artery. As necks and chests grew longer in our tetrapod ancestors, the nerve was stretched, but it never rerouted. Even in giraffes, the same nerve takes this absurd detour, stretching over 15 feet. Evolution doesn't rebuild from scratch. It remodels what's already there. Cacti and euphorbias are lookalikes without a common ancestor. Cacti in the Americas and euphorbias in Africa look strikingly similar, both with thick, ribbed stems, spines, and water-storing tissues. But they are not closely related at all. Their similarity is a result of convergent evolution, different lineages arriving at the same adaptations in response to the same environmental pressures. Both plants needed to conserve water, deter herbivores, and survive intense sun. Evolution sculpted them into the same solution from completely different starting materials. If you didn't know better, you might think they were twins, but their resemblance is only skin deep. Color vision evolved in different ways. Humans see the world in rich color thanks to 3 types of cone cells in the eye. But we're not alone. Birds, butterflies, mantis shrimp, and some reptiles see even more colors, many extending into ultraviolet. What's fascinating is that color vision evolved independently across different animal groups. Insects and vertebrates don't use the same genes or even the same retinal pigments. They simply arrived at similar solutions. In some primates, Color vision re-evolved after earlier ancestors had lost it. Evolution doesn't preserve traits unless they serve a purpose, but it's willing to reinvent them when the conditions are right. Crocodiles are living fossils, sort of. Crocodilians today look almost identical to their ancient ancestors from over 200 million years ago. This has earned them the nickname living fossils. But while their external form hasn't changed much, their internal biology has continued to evolve. Crocodiles have incredibly efficient circulatory systems, capable of holding their breath for over an hour. Their hearts are uniquely adapted to diving. Their behaviors, including maternal care and vocal communication, are surprisingly advanced. Evolution doesn't always mean visible change. Sometimes stability itself is the adaptation, a sign that the ancient design still works in the modern world. Marsupials and placentals had a parallel evolution. Marsupials, animals like kangaroos, koalas, and wombats, evolved separately from placental mammals. Yet both groups ended up with remarkably similar forms. There are marsupial versions of moles, anteaters, mice, and even wolves. These mirror forms are another example of convergent evolution. On different continents, in isolated evolutionary theaters, similar ecological pressures produced similar shapes. It's not that one group copied the other. It's that the environment sculpted them the same way. Evolution doesn't care where a solution comes from, only that it works. Woodpeckers evolved natural shock absorbers. A woodpecker strikes wood with up to 1,000 times the force of gravity, yet its brain doesn't rattle. That's because it has evolved a suite of adaptations to absorb the impact. These include a thickened skull, a flexible beak tip, a spongy bone structure, and even a specialized hyoid bone that wraps around the skull like a safety harness. Its eyes also close milliseconds before impact to prevent retinal damage. None of this happened overnight. It took countless tiny steps over millions of years, each one preserving the birds that could peck a little harder and survive. Flatfish evolved asymmetrical faces. Flatfish like flounders and halibut begin life looking like ordinary fish, with one eye on each side of the head. But as they develop, one eye slowly migrates to join the other, and the fish begins to swim sideways along the seafloor. The adult body becomes entirely asymmetrical. This strange transformation is the result of a unique evolutionary path that allowed flatfish to blend perfectly into the ocean floor. Fossils show transitional forms with halfway shifted eyes, capturing the process mid-mutation. Evolution does not need to make symmetrical beauty. It only needs to make survival work. Koalas have fingerprints so detailed and human-like that even under a microscope, they can be hard to tell apart from ours. The ridged loops and whorls evolved independently, not from a common ancestor with primates, but through convergent evolution. Fingerprints provide traction for gripping smooth bark and may improve tactile sensitivity. That means koalas climbing quietly through eucalyptus trees arrived at the same friction-enhancing feature that humans use for tool-making. Nature often revisits its best ideas, even in unexpected places. Some butterflies have transparent wings. While most butterflies dazzle with vivid color, some have evolved nearly invisible wings. Species like the glass-winged butterfly of Central America have scales that are spaced apart or absent, allowing light to pass through. The effect is astonishing. The wings become panes of living glass. This adaptation provides camouflage, making it harder for predators to spot them in flight. Transparency on land is rare, but in the dappled light of a rainforest, it's a powerful form of invisibility. Evolution didn't create these wings from scratch. It simply reduced the parts that reflected light, letting the world shine through. Naked mole rats are full of evolutionary surprises. But one of their strangest adaptations is their ability to survive without oxygen. In low-oxygen environments, they switch their metabolism to use fructose instead of glucose, a trick normally seen only in plants. This shift keeps their brain and heart functioning, even when oxygen levels dropped to near zero. Most mammals would die within minutes, but mole rats, shaped by millions of years in cramped tunnels, evolved a workaround. They are among the only mammals known to survive true anoxia by borrowing a strategy from the plant kingdom. Dogs can read human emotions better than chimps. Through thousands of years of companionship, dogs evolved the remarkable ability to read human cues, our facial expressions, tone of voice, and even where we point. Studies show that dogs outperform chimpanzees in interpreting these gestures, despite chimps being our closest relatives. Early dogs that were better at understanding humans may have been fed more, sheltered more, and trusted more. Over time, evolution favored emotional attunement. Your dog isn't just loyal, it's biologically wired to understand you. Unlike most animals, octopuses can modify their own RNA, the molecules that help turn genetic instructions into proteins. This means they can adjust which proteins get made in real time, fine-tuning their biology to match changing conditions. It's not a permanent change to their DNA, but a flexible form of self-editing. This ability may help explain their intelligence and adaptability. Evolution seems to have traded genetic stability for short-term versatility, giving octopuses a mind and body that can rewrite themselves to meet the moment. Many birds have 4 types of color receptors in their eyes compared to our 3, allowing them to see ultraviolet light and combinations of colors beyond human perception. What looks dull brown to us may be vibrant and patterned under UV light. This expanded vision plays a role in choosing mates, navigating landscapes, and finding food. Feathers that appear plain to us can glow vividly to another bird. Evolution tuned their eyes for a richer spectrum, a reminder that every creature experiences a different version of the same world. Some sea slugs can photosynthesize. The bright green sea slug, Elysia chlorotica, has evolved the ability to steal chloroplasts, the light-harvesting parts of algae, and keep them alive inside its own cells. This lets the slug use sunlight to make energy, just like a plant. It even seems to have absorbed some of the algae's genes into its own DNA, allowing the borrowed chloroplasts to function for months. It's a stunning case of evolutionary theft, an animal turning itself briefly into a living solar panel. Kiwi birds use their nostrils to sniff out food. Most birds hunt by sight, but kiwis, small, flightless birds from New Zealand, took another path. Their nostrils sit at the very tip of their long beaks, allowing them to sniff out worms and insects buried in the soil. Their sense of smell is among the strongest of all birds, perfectly adapted for their nocturnal, ground foraging life. While other birds watch from above, kiwis listen and smell their way through the dark forest floor, an evolutionary story written in scent instead of sight. Marsupial moles in Australia and placental moles elsewhere in the world look strikingly similar small, blind and built for digging. Both have compact, muscular forelimbs and dense, silky fur, but genetically they're worlds apart. One is a marsupial, the other a placental mammal. Their resemblance is another case of convergent evolution, different lineages sculpted into nearly identical forms by the shared challenge of life underground. They are evolutionary echoes, 2 creatures shaped into the same answer by the same environment. Some orchids trick insects by imitating their mates. Certain orchids have evolved to mimic the look and scent of female insects, luring unsuspecting males to attempt mating. During these encounters, pollen sticks to the insect and is carried to the next flower. The mimicry is astonishingly precise: shape, color, even pheromones. It's not just camouflage, it's seduction. In nature's endless experimentation, evolution sometimes favors illusion over honesty, and these orchids are proof that deception can be just as successful as beauty. Spiders, too, have taken mimicry to remarkable heights. Some species have evolved to look and move exactly like ants, narrowing their waists, waving their front legs as fake antennae, and copying the jerky movements of their models. This disguise helps them avoid predators or slip unnoticed into ant colonies. It's camouflage not through invisibility, but through imitation. An evolutionary costume so convincing it fools even the actors. In Australia, wombats have turned something as ordinary as digestion into geometry. They produce cube-shaped feces, a strange but practical adaptation that keeps droppings from rolling away in the hilly terrain they call home. The cubes form inside their intestines as varying elasticity shapes the feces during drawing and compression. It's a small, funny reminder that evolution can sculpt even the most mundane details with purpose. The tuatara of New Zealand carries an ancient secret beneath its skin, a third eye. Visible in young individuals, this light-sensitive organ fades with age, but still helps regulate daily and seasonal rhythms. The tuatara's lineage split from other reptiles over 200 million years ago, yet this primitive feature endures. Evolution didn't erase it. It simply hid it, leaving a tiny window to the sky just beneath the scales. In Southeast Asia, the tree shrew developed a curious talent for drink. It regularly consumes fermented nectar from the burdock palm, a natural alcohol roughly as strong as beer, and shows no signs of intoxication. Over time, evolution fine-tuned its liver enzymes to break down alcohol more efficiently than almost any other mammal. What began as a risky indulgence became a niche advantage, turning drunken fruit into dinner. Camels, masters of desert survival, owe part of their endurance to the shape of their blood cells. Unlike the round red cells of most mammals, theirs are oval. This allows blood to flow even when thickened by dehydration, keeping circulation steady when water is scarce. They can lose a quarter of their body's water and recover without harm. In every drop of their blood, evolution has written the story of adaptation through endurance. Giraffes, meanwhile, face the opposite challenge: gravity. To push blood all the way to their heads, their hearts evolved immense power, generating twice the pressure of a human's. Thick arteries and one-way valves prevent dizziness or damage when they lower their heads to drink. Their iconic necks aren't just feats of bone and muscle, but of hydraulics, evolution's quiet engineering miracle. Far below the surface, female anglerfish carry another kind of symbiosis. The glowing lure that dangles above their mouths is powered not by their own body, but by colonies of bioluminescent bacteria. These microbes evolved to live nowhere else, fed and protected by their host. In return, they create light in the dark, a perfect partnership born in total darkness, proof that evolution's greatest innovations often come from cooperation. Parrots, high above in the treetops, evolved an unexpected similarity with humans: vocal learning. They can imitate complex sounds, invent new ones, and pass dialects through generations. This ability isn't instinctive. It requires memory, imitation, and social connection. Evolution gave them not just a voice, but a kind of culture. When a parrot learns to mimic laughter, it's not just play, it's the echo of a shared intelligence. In the muddy rivers of Africa and South America, lungfish breach the worlds of water and air. When droughts dry up their ponds, they burrow into the mud, secrete a mucus cocoon, and fall into a suspended state called estivation. They can survive like this for years, waiting for the rain. It is a living time capsule of evolution, a glimpse of how fish first learned to breathe air and wait out the changing earth. And in the rainforests of Southeast Asia, some ants evolved a final selfless defense. When threatened, they contract their bodies until they rupture, releasing sticky toxic chemicals that immobilize intruders. It is a sacrifice that protects the colony at the cost of the individual, evolution as ultimate expression of teamwork, written not in loyalty, but in biology itself. In the warm, shallow seas of coral reefs, light can be as dangerous as it is beautiful. Some corals glow in brilliant reds, greens, and blues, not for decoration, but protection. Their fluorescent pigments act like sunscreen, absorbing harmful ultraviolet rays and re-emitting safer light. Its color as a shield, a living filter that keeps the delicate partnership between coral and algae alive. Evolution found a way to turn sunlight itself into safety. Deep beneath those same oceans swim two creatures that seem to share little: hippos and whales. One roams rivers and grasslands, the other drifts through the open sea. Yet genetically, they are close cousins. Their last common ancestor was a small, semi-aquatic mammal that lived about 55 million years ago. Over time, one lineage stayed near the shore and became hippos. The other took the plunge and never came back. Evolution doesn't always divide the land from the sea. Sometimes it connects them. In the fossil record, the spaces between major forms are not empty. There are bridges everywhere: fish with protolimbs, birds with teeth, reptiles that nurse their young. Transitional fossils like Tiktaalik, Archaeopteryx, and Australopithecus reveal the slow dance of transformation. They aren't missing links. They're snapshots of motion, caught in stone. Evolution doesn't leap from shape to shape. It walks patiently, one footprint at a time. Still, those steps aren't always even. Sometimes life stays stable for ages, then changes in sudden bursts. This pattern, known as punctuated equilibrium, shows that evolution can idle quietly for millions of years, waiting for a shift, a new climate, a fresh predator, a moment of opportunity. Then, almost overnight in geological time, everything changes. Evolution, like life itself, moves in rhythms, long silences and sudden songs. In the freezing seas near the poles, some fish survive where blood should turn to ice. They do it with antifreeze proteins that keep ice crystals from forming inside their bodies. Arctic cod and Antarctic notaphenioids evolved these proteins independently. Two lineages, two oceans, one brilliant solution. In nature's chemistry, survival often means inventing the same miracle twice. Snakes, though legless now, still carry the blueprints for limbs. In embryos, tiny buds begin to form before vanishing. Some species, like pythons, retain small vestigial bones buried near their tails, faint reminders of hips long gone. The genes for legs are still there, sleeping in the genome. Evolution rarely deletes its work. It simply tucks it away, as if saving the files for later. Even your own DNA carries traces of ancient invaders. Long ago, retroviruses inserted their genetic material into our ancestors' cells, and some of those fragments remain today, about 8% of the human genome. They are no longer infections, but fossils made of code. Some even help regulate our genes. You are, in part, the memory of ancient battles fought and won at the microscopic level. Look at your hands, and you're looking at modified fins. The same bones, radius, ulna, and wrist once helped fish push through shallow water. Fossils like Tiktaalik capture that moment of transition, when fins became feet and movement shifted from swimming to walking. Even now, when you reach or grasp, you're echoing the motion of a creature testing dry land for the first time. Feathers, too, began with a different purpose. Long before flight, they evolved for warmth and display, insulation for small dinosaurs, and decoration for courtship. Only later did some become refined for gliding, and then for powered flight. Evolution often repurposes what already exists. The same threads that once held warmth eventually carried wings into the sky. The human sense of smell, though less celebrated than our sight, remains astonishingly complex. We can detect over 1 trillion scents, guided by hundreds of receptor genes, many ancient, many silent. Each breath is a living archive of evolutionary history, tracing back to creatures who relied on smell to find food, mates, and safety. Evolution didn't take that ability away. It just taught us to notice other things more. In the insect world, illusion has its own masterpieces. Some leaf insects are so perfectly camouflaged that they even bear markings that look like bite holes. Their bodies sway gently like leaves in the wind, every motion rehearsed by evolution. In a world of predators and prey, deception can be as powerful as armor. And yes, even now, we are still evolving. Genes continue to shift, adapting us to new diets, climates, and diseases. The ability to digest milk as adults, to thrive at high altitudes, or to resist certain infections. All of these are recent evolutionary changes. Humanity is not finished. We are a work in progress, quietly rewriting ourselves through time. Turtles show how evolution can fold bone into armor. Their shells aren't something added. They are ribs and vertebrae, widened and fused until the skeleton itself became a shield. Fossils reveal stages in this transformation. Partial shells, expanding ribs, then the fully encased body we know today. The turtle carries its home not on its back, but within its bones. Even the story of milk goes back further than mammals giving live birth. Early ancestors may have used milky secretions not to feed, but to keep eggs moist and protected from infection. Over time, those secretions grew richer, until milk itself became nourishment. Evolution often begins with one purpose, then finds another. Moisture became sustenance, and sustenance became life. Some human features, though, remain mysterious. The chin, for instance, serves no clear purpose. It adds little strength and no survival advantage. It may simply be a byproduct of shrinking jaws as our faces evolved, or perhaps something shaped by attraction rather than function. In the grand story of adaptation, not everything has a reason. Some things just remain. When you feel goosebumps, you're echoing your ancestors. Tiny muscles at the base of each hair pull the follicles upright, a reflex that once made fur stand on end for warmth or intimidation. On our mostly bare skin, it's useless, but still there. A small, shivering reminder of the animals we used to be. Among birds, some of the brightest minds belong to those cloaked in black. Crows and ravens can solve puzzles, recognize faces, plan ahead, and even hold grudges. Their intelligence rivals that of apes, despite their brains being built differently. Evolution found another path to thought, one made not of mammalian folds, but of feathers and flight. Flight itself, though, isn't eternal. Across the world, many birds gave it up. Ostriches, emus, rheas, and penguins all abandoned the air for life on the ground or sea. On islands without predators, or in icy oceans, wings became unnecessary weight. Evolution isn't sentimental. When a tool is no longer needed, it lets it fade. Our own lineage tells a story of acceleration. In just a few million years, the human brain tripled in size, reshaping our skulls, our language, and our societies. The leap was astonishingly fast by evolutionary standards, a sudden bloom of complexity that still puzzles scientists. Whatever combination of tools, challenges, and cooperation caused it, the result was consciousness looking back at itself. Even our teeth carry whispers of the past. Wisdom teeth once helped our ancestors chew coarse, raw food, but as our diets softened and jaws shrank, there was no longer room for them. Today, many people never develop them at all. Evolution continues one small dental change at a time, quietly phasing out what we no longer need. And in the end, you are an evolutionary mosaic, a patchwork of ancient parts assembled over billions of years. Your spine once belonged to a fish. Your hands began as fins. Your lungs trace back to air bladders, and your hiccups may echo amphibian ancestors who gulped air through wet throats. Every cell carries the fingerprints of the past. You are not separate from the story of life. You are one of its newest verses. And so, across oceans and forests, deserts and DNA, we've drifted through the quiet story of how life shapes itself. Evolution isn't just written in fossils or bones. It lives in feathers, instincts, and heartbeat rhythms passed down through time. It's not a straight line, but a spiral of change and memory. Tonight, as you rest, remember, the atoms in your body once burned in stars, The genes in your cells have traveled through countless forms, and the breath you take is part of an unbroken chain that began over 3 billion years ago. Nothing in nature truly stands still. Not the tides, not the stars, not even us. Sleep well, and let the long story of life hum quietly in your dreams.